Okay, we are pre-live, electronically connecting with the world. I guess we're live right now. Well, good evening, good afternoon, bonsoir. Welcome to our June 19th Public Council meeting of the great town of Stephenville, Newfoundland. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Oh,
Sounds like order.
sounds like order to me. You guys are
Agree to that.
well behaved. Yeah. Good decorum.
So it's boring to me.
Yeah. Okay, item number 2, before I move into the agenda, is our land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge the town of Stephenville as the ancestral homeland of different populations of indigenous people. We also acknowledge with respect the rich histories and cultures of the Beothuk, the Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit of the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Item number 3, be it resolved to approve the agenda for this day. It is 4:05 p.m. Should have my glasses on just to get that right. We're good. As presented, I would ask a member of council to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor Myra White, second by Councillor Maurice Hines. All in favor? Carried. We don't have Councillor Roberts with us today. Is he not attending or is he late?
Yeah, he's not attending.
Not attending, okay. Okay, so with council meetings, just out of clarification for those that are listening, and we do have 5 attendees and we have a couple of special guests in our audience chambers here, welcome. Council's business can carry on with a quorum of 4. But when it comes to special financial considerations, we require 5 out of 7. So having 6 is full within our quorum and our duties. Okay, item number 4, approval of the minutes. As circulated, our previous minutes on June 5th by our town clerk, Jennifer Brake. I would ask a member of council that we approve those circulated minutes. Moved by Councillor Laura. And second by Councillor Tom O'Brien. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, are there any matters arising from those minutes? I see no matters arising.
Not that I could see.
Nope. We have no proclamations or delegations here today. Okay, so I'll end off my first 6 items, and I'll turn it over to item number 7, our Chair of Finance, Councillor Myra White. Take it away.
Finance Committee report 7.1 accounts payable. Be it resolved to approve accounts payable for June the 19th, 2025 in the amount of $202,294.06. I so move.
Moved by Councillor Myra White, second. Second, Councillor Maurice Hines. All in favor? Carried.
Item 7.2, request for sponsorship Bay St. George Chamber of Commerce 24th Annual Golf Tournament. Be it resolved that the town of Stephenville provides sponsorship in the amount of $100 and registered 2 teams in the 24th Bay St. George Chamber of Commerce Annual Golf Tournament in the amount of $720. I so move.
Moved by Councillor Myra White, second. Second, Councillor Laurie Edward.
Question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just wondering if, it seems there's an amount, and just wondering in terms of the two teams, is that's within our staff / council, we got enough for 2 teams? Okay.
And that's for council also. So if any councillors wanted to play in that.
You wouldn't like to see me go.
Well, I would imagine they've got the numbers already, because if
think
they
maybe
got
enough-
2 teams, right? Yeah. Okay, good.
I just wanted to add a couple things, I guess, with our Harmony Seaside links, a little history.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll just
Yeah.
say this is the
So,
same as we've done last.
so a little history, I guess, US Air Force Base, Harmon Air Force Base, one of the base commanders, I guess, really enjoyed golf, so they built the first 9 holes.
Yeah.
And so it is said that, and I'm not an avid golfer like Counselor Tom O'Brien, kind of not into that a whole lot, just saying. But apparently, the first 9 holes in the design kind of had a little bit of an advantage for a lefty. And the base commander was a left-handed golfer. I'm lefty myself, but the same. And actually, a little history, the second 9 holes was completed by the town of Stephenville and the support of the provincial government when your son, MHA Kevin Aylward, was the minister. That's when the other 9 holes. So we have a really nice 18 holes links course here in Stephenville. And
I got a picture of some of the ladies golfing, American ladies.
oh, is that right?
Yeah, from the 60s.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine that told me when he was a young boy, when the air base was on, and his dad kind of knew people that worked on the base, and they're always sometimes looking for caddies, some of the local boys, you know? And he said, my God, he said, it was the first time ever I had a hamburger in my lifetime. I never knew what hamburgers and hot dogs and Canada Dry was like, but he said, I experienced it. I didn't know. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
They were good days. I gotta tell you, Americans were good.
Yeah.
When, yeah,
The employees, I
Yeah.
gotta say.
when
They
the,
certainly were.
Yeah,
some of the students kind of left school because they were making a little bit of money.
That's true. I never
And
thought
setting
of
the
that.
pins on the,
Yeah.
at the bowling.
Yeah.
too, right?
yeah, yeah.
Making a bit of money.
Yeah. So all in favor? Carry.
Item 7.3. A. Approval to borrow. A. Russell Heights reconstruction. Be it resolved that the town of Stephenville borrow from the Royal Bank of Canada, St. John's, Newfoundland for the project number 17-GI-24-00025. Russell Heights reconstruction, a loan in the amount of $192,934, GST rebate of $19,821.41 will be paid out of the town funds. Term of 3 years with an amortization period of 20 years. The interest rate of 4.2% with a monthly payment of $1,189.81. I so move.
Moved by Councilor Myra White, second.
Second.
Second, Deputy Mayor Susan Pallo, all in favor?
Aye.
Carry.
Seven 3B Main Street reconstruction. Be it resolved that the Town Council of Stephenville borrow from the Royal Bank of Canada, St. John's, Newfoundland for projects number 17-GI-23-00069 Main Street reconstruction. A loan in the amount of $651,841, GST rebate of $66,968 will be paid out of the town funds. Term of 3 years with an amortization period of 20 years. The interest rate of 4.2 with a monthly payment of $4,019.78. I so move.
Moved by Councilor Myra White, second. Second, Councilor Laura Aylward, all in favor? Carried.
7.3C Rose Avenue reconstruction. Be it resolved that the town of Stevens borrow from the Royal Bank of Canada, St. John's, Newfoundland for project number 17-GI-24-00091 Rose Avenue reconstruction. A loan in the amount of $360,075, GST rebate of $36,993 will be paid out of town funds. The term of 3 years with an amortization period of 20 years. The interest rate of 4.2 with a monthly payment of $2,220.51. I so move.
Moved by Councillor Myra White, second. Second, Councillor Tom O'Brien, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Item 7.3D, capital purchase, a vacuum sweeper truck. Be it resolved that the Town Council of Stephenville borrow from the Royal Bank of Canada, St. John's, Newfoundland, for Boucher Model V65T vacuum sweeper truck. A loan in the amount of $475,231. GST rebate of $48,823.70 will be paid out of the town funds. Term of 5 years with an amortization period of 7 years. The interest rate of 4.14% with a monthly payment of $6,527,020. Let me repeat that one. $6,527.26. I so moved.
Moved by Councillor Myra White, second, Deputy Mayor Susan Vella. I just want to say it is a very expensive capital purchase. It's a very specialized truck, these vacuum trucks. And it's so important for the town from a safety perspective, really, because when there's a lot of sand left over from the winter time, cleaning our streets, keeping our streets from anybody on two wheels, whether it's pedal bikes or pedal assist bikes or motorcycles, or just people walking and running, don't recommend running the roads, but on the sidewalks, some people do.
It's also used to.
And so I've seen it out quite a bit. So any update on how it's working from the
Working
national team?
extremely well. The staff up at the Public Works Depot are very pleased with it. It's also used for emptying the catch basins and that sort of work as well. So it's a multifaceted piece of equipment, and we're still, performing maintenance and using the other one as well. So, and really it's, the other one's maintenance cost got to be, it's there as a backup.
Okay, all in favor? Carried.
7.3E, capital purchase, 2025 mini excavator. It resolved that the Town Council of Stephenville finance 2025 mini excavator, including 5-year warranty from Wajax Limited in the amount of $110,000 with 0 interest rate. The HST totaling $16,500 plus $850 administration fee will be paid up front out of the town funds. Term of 6 years with a monthly payment of $1,527.78. I so moved.
Moved by Councillor Myra White, second.
Second.
Second, Deputy Mayor Susan Vella.
Just a question, that 0% interest rate?
It is, yeah, the $850 administration fee, sometimes you would think that would be high, but given this was an offer with the, when we had the tender from the company that's provided this particular unit. And so we thought it was as good a deal as you can get. Our interest rate would have been 4.2% if we borrowed that. It's something that some people suggest we should purchase outright, but with the 0% interest rate offer, it just allows us cash flow management at a cost of $850 over the term. So
Yeah, because
smart move.
it was part of the discussion when we did our finance, but
Yeah.
0% interest rate, yeah.
Yeah.
Great, yeah.
And I will say, go ahead.
Also, there's a trailer that has come with it, but we decided to purchase the trailer just outright. It's, I think, another $28,000.
Yeah. Just want to say before I call for the vote too, that the analysis of our Public Works Department determined that this piece of equipment is something we didn't have, but at high utilization in the town, and it made sense to have our own. Remember, all of our Public Works staff pretty well all of them, 90%, I would say, are heavy equipment operators trained at the College of North Atlantic primarily, not all, but I presume the majority of them are because they're local. And the other good thing about these purchases is that the timing of the Bank of Canada, and as a country and as the world, we know what happens to interest rates, but coming out of COVID, trying to get the inflation is one issue, and sometimes trying to cool inflation, sometimes dropping and holding bank rates at the governor's level, at the governor of Canada, is so very important. But it helps us because these are really, if you go back 20 years, we probably weren't, there's times we were probably paying 8 or 9% interest when we had to do a capital purchase. So I think the timing is good also. We're getting some good work. Remember, our town is 70 years old, and water and sewer lines are aging. And the good work of our public works, they identify the most problematic areas of town and infrastructure, and they triage and they make recommendations of what needs to be done. There's needs and wants, and for the most part, we do what's needed. So on that note, all in favor?
Aye.
Carry.
There are no other items for the minutes.
Okay. I just to go into item 8 here, bylaws, regulations, and policies. We have started to make some good inroads on some policy development. I see Deputy Mayor Susan Fallow has started some communication as we will work through our planning committees and bylaws and regulations as we move forward. So thank you for that, Deputy Mayor Susan Fallow. Is there any unfinished business? We are pretty good, but I got a couple of things. First of all, have to say a big shout out to our management team, and actually Marine Contracting, who has managed to start Main Street in April. And I've watched how their ability to do a street, and Russell Heights was no different that they started last year. They just did the second final recap of Russell Heights. So that's complete. And when we pave roads, they normally put the first 2.5 inches down. There's a time bar that they have to wait before the second cap goes on. So there's a possibility, I'm hearing, Bill, that the second cap of Main Street could happen in the fall, possibly, right?
Shouldn't.
Normally they let it weather enough
For a
to
winter?
ensure that you get a freezing thaw.
Oh, okay.
But, that's the thing that you wait for to see if you're gonna get some response. It'll be something that might have been done improperly, but, at the very least, that's what we're thinking. Possible, but probably not possible.
Okay. So they started in April. They've already started paving Main Street, and we're the 19th of June today. So, having it completed technically before the bulk of the tourism season, and I always look at winter's tourism, we're starting to see a lot of tourists in town now, I've noticed. And Newfoundland and Labrador are seeing a lot of tourists because there's a lot of Canadians that have changed gears about where they're going to vacation. Instead of considering Florida and California and places like that, they're saying, let's see our own country. And a lot of people coming to Newfoundland.
We had a group of 60 on the 19th or on the last Monday. Mostly Americans, but a group from Nova Scotia, Saskatchewan, and BC.
Yeah, and we welcome the Americans into our town. There's a little bit of an economic war, geopolitical, and that'll get worked out. But at the end of the day, too, their buying power, the US dollar is so much higher than the Canadian dollar. When they cross the border, their buying power is really, really good. So that's really important. But knowing that we're having Main Street done, I always look at tourists doesn't really get busy until school's out. And that'll be next Thursday. And the children can move and the families can move and they can shut down and take their holidays and stuff like that. So that's important.
Last Wednesday, there was a tour bus in town with 40 people on it. I mean, for today. I mean,
Nice.
this is, exactly, this part of the world, there was people running from Australia.
Yeah.
Everywhere, I mean,
Yeah.
chasing quilts.
Yep.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's a big market. I know, and all the work and the attention, both, you know, Canadian wide on the church in Port. Remember, anybody going to Port for the French culture or the campgrounds or Our Lady of Mercy Heritage Church, they got to rotate and come through Stephenville. And one of the things we had talked about last year, I guess this would be more for Matt and planning, is that we wanted for Main Street to be completed. But what we wanted to do was get a small sign put at that rough intersection of Empire, Hanson, and West Street. Because a lot of tourists come into the Port Peninsula, for example, along Route 460. They bypass Steamboat, they're heading to the Port Peninsula. And then they leave the Port Peninsula, and when they come, they turn up the highway and they head back to Port aux Basques, Rosemore, wherever they're heading. But we need to push traffic down Main Street to help with our business and our commerce along West Street and Main Street. So I'd like to see TCH via Main Street with an arrow, just a simple TCH. And then when you get down on the intersection of West and Main, another arrow to let them know that that's Main Street. Because remember, this is tourists that may have been in your town for the very first time. So if management could look at that, we talked about it last year, but we said, let's wait till Main Street got completed. So if that's something that we can do, I'd love to see it, because we've had requests from downtown business.
Well, we should be able to do it. I mean, we should be able to do it, I mean.
Yeah, should be.
It's fine, I mean.
Yeah.
Just say we're going to do it.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention is, I guess once Main Street gets completed, the contractor for line painting will be back in town to get Main Street completed for line painting and to complete any areas that haven't been done along with our bike lanes. So I'm hoping that as the weather permits.
We've had some requests, like there's an apron area in front of the search and rescue, which we committed to do, and he's missed that this first go round, but when he comes back, he should get that done. And other areas where it's necessary, to make sure that they were out very quick this year, and that was good.
Yeah.
It's the third year for the current contract.
Yeah. And, you know, we have a lot happening in Stephenville, and I big shout out to the Stephenville Theatre Festival again this year. I seen the lineup and the program, I really like it. I kind of like where they're having a big closing Canada Day kind of event now. You know, the patriotism of Canada is so enriched in the last 3 to 6 months. It's unbelievable. Lost Stanley Cup, but
Now then.
absolutely. The pride in Canada is unbelievable. Strong North and free, just say that. But the Stephenville Theatre Festival this year was going into their 47th season.
Unreal, eh?
Unbelievable. You know, a star-studded cast of professionals from all over the world come to Stephenville to perform. And I gotta say, a lot of fans in this area of Elvis Presley. But what we're hoping in musicals this year is all shook up. And I can't wait to see it.
Really? Are you?
Oh, well,
Are you from Chicago?
I'd say I will be once they start kicking in some Elvis tunes, you know? I'm a big Elvis, I love Elvis's voice and singing, and he was here in Stephenville.
Yes, he was.
You know, that's a piece of history.
Yeah.
Which the museum in Graceland did not know.
Oh, is that right?
Did you let them know?
Actually, Jack Ryan was looking for something. Yeah, we sent some stuff off to them, some pictures. Yeah, they have no idea that he was here.
Wow.
Unreal. So just one other thing I wanted to bring up, and sometimes I always like to stay on a high note, but I think it sometimes is worthy to say something when I feel anyways, in my position as the mayor, as council and representing the town, that I have to say, I listened to Bob Burns on CBC. And I was disappointed and surprised, you know, that he talked about a potential conspiracy theory. You know, about what was happening on the airport, stuff like that. And then a few months ago, he got up at a chamber meeting, I believe, and spoke about, you know, the town of Steamboat Crossing and how, you know, it really wasn't worthy to have development and provincial support towards the courthouse and the upgrades. And, you know, I think it's time for the business community to consider a new spokesperson, because we need people that have diplomacy and is focused more on what's right in this town. And, you know, but speaking on those terms, I think it was not great for the community, not great for our town. And it's time that the business people may have to look at a new spokesperson. I just want to say that because I think it's important to say.
But Mayor, I'll bring up one thing. And when it comes to the airport, I mean, there's certainly a lot of uncertainty there. I mean, I know there's discussions on the go. I mean, that's reported in the media and stuff. But it still remains a great uncertainty. Mr. Diamond owns the airport. It looks like Mr. Diamond will continue to own the airport, at least for the time being. But I mean, you always got to try to have a plan B. I mean, in the case of the airport, I mean, I had one lady in town who, I mean, I respect very much. She's a thinker, and she's a good problem solver. Suggested something to me, and I said, sounds like an excellent idea to me. I'll bring it up at the next council meeting. That is, maybe we should be starting to lobby the provincial government for a small landing strip that can accommodate the air ambulance. The air ambulance is, I mean, the biggest thing with me. I mean, it's, I mean, to get an average of 7 flights a month, that's the average. So I mean, some months it's higher than that. But I mean, that's the life in that situation. I mean, as an individual that used the air ambulance back in 2019, I mean, it kind of drives the point home even further. I mean, if there was a small landing strip that could accommodate the air ambulance, I mean, snow clearing, I mean, Public Works cleared snow. I mean, it's basically a big piece of asphalt. So I mean, maybe we need to start to look at lobbying the provincial government to start to check out what the possibility of putting in a smaller strip for the air ambulance. Some people would say with runways there, you mean just use the runway. We don't own the runway, right? I mean, it's so I think it's something that we should at least start the preliminary work to check out.
Well, according to the article that Diamond had, he said that the air ambulance are landing here.
Oh, they dare?
Yeah, that's what he said, yeah.
Yeah, but if it closes completely down.
Oh, if it closes, yeah, well, yeah, but you know what?
I don't know if they can land now with the power turned off.
I can't understand. I've been at this table for 32 years and I've said it over and over and over again. And I've said it to when C. Stein was mayor. I said, I for one don't believe that the board or anybody else owns that airport, even Diamond now, because we own the airport. The people of Stephenville owns the airport. We own the runway. We own the land. That's my bottom line. I think that some investigation should be made looking into the situation, because I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you a piece of infrastructure of any kind, and especially the airport being so important to this area and Bay St. George, really. I'm not convinced. I'm convinced that the town of Stephenville owns that airport and it could not be sold to anybody. Now, regardless of a board or not.
I think at the end of the day, just overarching, it's a public asset, and let's hope that
Yes.
there is a go forward plan. It's in the corporate hands now, so it's kind of outside of our hands, and but let's hope that there's a path forward. That's all we can do. But
There's got to be something.
they say that it is a public asset. There's no doubt.
I think in regard to that too, it needs to be said, I guess, that for everybody to recognize that, just like research that can be presented, it can be presented in a way that supports what you think, or you can present it in a way that doesn't support what you think, depending on, what you're trying to achieve. And so I think it's really important for all of us to remember as we hear reports and news reports and people being interviewed and so on, that there's still that human element that, when I create the story, then I'm going to create the story in a way that perhaps I find the people who follow that same story. And so I think it's just really important to remind people that thinking critically is really important. Believing something just because someone said it is not necessarily always the right way to do things. And also recognize that council makes deliberate choices quite often. We do not to argue with people because it makes no sense. But because we don't argue and respond doesn't necessarily mean that what people say is right, accurate, or anything else. So, before you jump on the bandwagon and get happy or sad about things that are happening, it's really important to kind of think about that, think about where it comes from and why it comes from there, and recognize that there's three sides to every story. And, if you get one, that's not necessarily enough.
I do think that if we're going to make a change and we can be part of, we just can't be council doing it. The whole town, the whole community has to do it. Because if we don't have that behind us, nobody listens to us. Like the government's not even going to listen, right? But if we had Bay St. George having their say, I think that we would be a whole lot better, and we could be moving something if we do that. We got to give up the negativity because it's not going to work.
Well, there's people out there saying that, to me,
Negativity will kill you.
why aren't you and other citizens out, not council now? Why are not the citizens out rallying for this airport?
Yeah.
And getting the government, I mean, and they're saying to me, it's election year, so now's the time to do it, and it's time for us to get some support for our airport, because we've never really gotten much support, over the years. But I said, well, if someone wants to start something, I'll certainly support it, but I'm not going to go being the one that's going to start out. But there's people in the town, and that rally they held in support of the November 25th of the windmills, that was organization, and I think that I knew some of the people that organized it, and I guarantee you that was a good one. But I think somebody should be out there in crowds, because this asset and is very important to this area and the people. Well, it's important to the province, really, So I don't know what the answers are, but I can tell you that a rally would be in support, would be certainly welcoming, I think, in my opinion.
Okay, so good, some good dialogue, how important our airport is to our town, and it's an asset. Remember, it's can't be picked up and lifted off and moved away, but unfortunately it's not up. So that's it for the future. So on that note, any last comments?
The only thing I wanted to mention is, I guess that we lost one of our senior citizens, Mrs.
Yes.
Clara Sams, 104 plus
104.5.
dash plus
Half.
yeah, 104 and a half. Clara Sams.
St. Stephen Street?
No, she's living in the apartments by the.
On West Street.
Oh, okay.
And
She
then
did, yeah.
received-
Yeah, there was a big family of them. Yeah,
19, is it?
19, yeah, yeah. God bless her, yeah.
They came from Galanty.
And the Cowboy Valley, I think there's
Oh, Conroy.
people involved too.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I just wanted to make another comment. We've had a number, and this is, this happens regularly. I guess when something's happening on our street, either vehicles are going too fast or quads or whatever are going up and down the street. It's very natural for us then on our street to try to figure out what the plan would be to deal with it. And so we've had a number of different requests over the last little while as summer ramps up and more motorcycles and dirt bikes and so on. You go, people looking to have speed bumps put on their roads because they're worried about the children and so on. And I guess from my end of it, what I would like people to recognize is, and all of us to recognize that, again, if we start responding to every request for a speed bump, we will have to basically put them on every street in Stephenville. And then there's going to be probably some new issue. People will fly over the speed bumps or something. So I think for those people looking for solutions, we've talked a little bit about the fact that speed bumps may not be a solution, but we need to work together with the RCMP. And again, we have had meetings with them in the past, and I'm sure we can do it again, to really look at how we deal with this as a broader issue, as opposed to just this street or just that street. We need to talk about the fact that people are going too fast. And if that's the case, and of course, every time there's construction, there's new routes for people and they're moving up and down different streets and the streets seem busier. But I think for those of you who are requesting speed bumps and maybe not getting the answer you would like, rest assured that we're trying to, I think, look at the bigger issue of speeding and how we try to mitigate that, not just on one street, but in our whole community. So we haven't ignored you or forgotten you, but you know, we can't do it everywhere.
St. George's Street won't be as busy after the,
Exactly.
after Main Street's open anyway. It is right now. It is very.
Yeah.
And I just want to mention too, and for my traffic flow patterns, I use Georgia a lot if I'm coming from Route 460, coming into town along Minnesota. I'll go down Georgia before I head down Main Street. Pass it, least resistance.
Sure.
If I'm coming up Main Street, coming up Carolina, going to the College of North Atlantic Hospital and all that, we all tend to turn up Georgia. So all that traffic pattern is going through a residential area. What the roundabout will do will stop a lot of that, because once the roundabout happens next to the co-op, anybody heading to the hospital or CNA and all those establishments up there are not going to go up Georgia anymore. They're going to head to the roundabout, just go up, and vice versa. If you're coming off of Minnesota to go down to Main Street, coming out of 460, which is a lot of traffic, you're not going to go down Georgia anymore. So I think the roundabout is going to lessen the traffic on Georgia, which is a residential area. And remember, Georgia is identified from the library heading up towards Pharmacy. That's an area designated in our budget this year for sidewalk development. It's in our budget for this year because it is a very narrow street and there isn't a lot of traffic flow there. So the sidewalks will make it safer. We think the roundabout will take a lot of vehicle traffic off of that residential street to make it safer again. So just want to say that. Okay, so if there's nothing out there for anybody, no. I'm looking for a mover to adjourn the meeting. Councillor Tom O'Brien, I see your hand up. How about a seconder?
Second.
Second, Councillor Mara White, all in favor? It is 4:44.
He gives me that look, I know it's time to flop the hand.
Yeah, that's right.